Hello everyone and welcome back to another Kerbal Space Program video, taking a break from the little tutorial Let's Play series and going back to one of my more standard videos in which we build a specific craft and take it on a fun old mission. As I'm sure you could gauge from the title and thumbnail, in this video we're going to be building the iconic, the legendary Starship Enterprise from a little TV show slash film series that you might be familiar with called Star Trek. Now, of course, the Enterprise has seen many iterations, so when it came to deciding which one I would use as the base for my Starship Enterprise, I decided to use none of them. You see, the thing with the starships in Star Trek, or at least, the main ships, they're all gigantic, right? They have crew numbers in the hundreds, and so if I were to build a more faithful starship, it would be unmanageably big. I don't think the game would run it very well, and I can't envisage how on earth I would even fly the thing without cheating it to orbit, so I decided to make my Starship Enterprise more Kerbal scale. I determined the scale by having the little, I'm a bit rubbish with the anatomy of the ships, but the bottom bit, I made that using the Mark III size fuselage pieces, and then kind of scaled everything appropriately around that. I really like how the saucer came out. I thought it would look cool to have that ring of windows going all the way around, which of course will all light up when we're flying. I think that would look really nice. And of course we have the nacelles at the back as well. And would you look at that, the Starship is coming together very nicely, if I do say so myself. I'd love to have one of these things in real life, fly around the universe, chatting to aliens and stuff. In fact, that's actually one of the bits of Star Trek tech I really wish would actually become real, In Star Trek, and I guess Doctor Who and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, now there may be more I just don't recall right now, the protagonists all have a universal translator in one form or another, and I really wish that was a thing in real life. But alas, it's not. Right now, if you want to learn another language, we have to just learn it. And if you want to learn a new language, then you should definitely use Babbel, who have sponsored today's video. Babbel is one of the world's top language learning apps with over 10 million subscriptions worldwide that teaches you real-world conversations in lessons designed by real language teachers. This YouTube job of mine has given me some fantastic opportunities to visit other YouTubers and space industry folk in other countries, but my foreign language skills do leave quite a bit to be desired. Meeting subscribers when I visited Space Creator Day in Germany and meeting rivals at the French KSP esports event was great, but it could have been even better if my grasp of their languages was a little bit better than it currently is. Fun fact, me and my girlfriend accidentally bought 3 tickets to the Heidelberg Funicular instead of 2 because she got the German for 2 and 3 mixed up. Oops. So I'd really like to brush up on my French and German for SpaceCon and Space Creator Days 2024, but the thought of learning a new language can sound intimidating, right? However, Babbel has your back. Its lessons are expertly crafted, fun, immersive, and crucially, it prepares you for real-life conversations that you can expect to have when visiting those countries.
Oui, bien sûr.
And Babbel is scientifically proven to get you started speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. And if you're watching this video, you can get 60% off your subscription. Just follow the link in the description box or pinned comment and start speaking a new language in 3 weeks with Babbel. Anyway, now that I'm done with building the Starship, I thought it wouldn't really be complete without a functioning shuttle bay. So I'm building this small vessel that can fit inside the admittedly rather cramped shuttle area at the back of the Starship. So it's a very, very simple design, just space for 3 Kerbals and enough Delta V to land on and return from the surface of a somewhat low gravity moon. Like it could maybe do the Mun, but it's more appropriate for something like Minmus. And now that it's all constructed, we can add it to the shuttle bay of the Starship itself. The shuttle bay obviously just being the Mark III cargo ramp. Not even a cargo bay, just the cargo ramp. But it's just enough to fit this shuttle here. I then added some monopropellant tanks to one of the free surfaces, as well as some RTGs so that we can generate electricity without having ugly solar panels ruining the aesthetics. And with that, I was pretty much satisfied with how the ship was looking, so I decided to test it out, because of course, we kind of have a weird setup with those engines, right? I wanted to make sure that they were definitely firing along the center of mass, so we could actually have our engines located in the correct position. And although the tests were successful, I realized that whilst we have a lot of Delta V with those engines because they're very efficient, they have very low thrust, and you might have guessed that this craft has quite a high dry mass. So we will be switching them out for some slightly more powerful, albeit slightly less efficient engines. Right now, you can see me dealing with the problem that, you know, in the fictional world of Star Trek, the real ships didn't have to deal with, and that's getting them off Earth and into space, because in Star Trek, the ships are just built in space, in orbital construction yards. With the exception of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek 2009 film, there's that shot where Captain Kirk is watching the ship get built on Earth. Probably now going to be lots of Star Trek nerds in the comments telling me that actually in this series, in that series, in that comic, these ships were built on the ground as well. But I'm just saying, I don't have that much knowledge of Star Trek. I've only actually ever seen the TV show Star Trek Voyager. I mean, obviously I've seen bits of the other ones, but that's the only show where I've watched multiple episodes, because that's all we didn't have cable TV when I was growing up. So that was the only show that was on the TV when I was growing up. I do keep meaning to get around to watching like the Next Generation and stuff. Oh, I watched Star Trek Discovery, like the first series or the first two series. I don't remember. It wasn't that great, to be honest. So that's why I forgot about that one. And now you can just see me get a bit of a sidetrack, wasn't it? Just getting back to the video. I'm adding the more powerful engines. I went for the skippers. And there we have it. The ship is all constructed. So let's go to the launch pad. Wow, that looks ridiculous. And launch. Okay, it does look kind of funny, but I think it actually came out looking okay. I was a bit worried that the actual launch vehicle for this rocket was going to end up being this massive, oversized, ridiculous thing, but actually looks a bit like an SLS. I know I say that basically every video, don't I? Hey, this rocket looks like an SLS, but in my defense, orange core, RS-25 engines, white SRBs. I posted this a picture of this on Twitter a few weeks ago, saying, hey, you guys wanted me to make an SLS boosted Starship, right? Is this what you meant? Did I do it okay? And yes, very, very witty, very funny, I know. And if you did find that funny or just enjoying the video in general, then leave a little like down below. It really helps me out and all that good stuff. Anyway, as you can see, I didn't notice my SRBs had flamed out right away, so we detached them a bit late on. And now you might notice that I'm doing a very steep gravity turn. We're well over 10 kilometers in altitude, yet I'm still basically pointing straight up. The reason for this is because we have that big communication dish on the front of the ship. This is incredibly sensitive to thermal heating, and doing a conventional gravity turn, while possible, would always result in that thing exploding. So instead, I'm trying to not get too fast and start building up my horizontal speed until we're in the vacuum of space itself. Therefore, there's no air resistance to generate the heat. As you can see, we've already got a temperature gauge forming there, right as we start running out of fuel in our first stage. And as soon as the engines flamed out, we started doing this weird roll. I'm not sure what happened there, but whatever, it was fine. As you can see, our apoapsis is nice and high, so once we've finished tumbling, we can fire up the second stage engine just to make sure we're definitely heading along the right vector, and then we can make a maneuver plan at our apoapsis and arrange getting ourselves circularized. Now, you can't see it at the moment because I've not got the Kerbal portrait set to the right tier, but we do actually have crew on board this ship. We've got 3 Kerbals inside so that we can actually, fully load up the shuttle and visit the surface of a mysterious alien world. But then that might leave some of you thinking, Matt, hang on, how do you plan on safely returning to the surface of Kerbin then? Because there's no heat shield or anything like that on board this ship. Well, I installed something inside it that I decided not to include in the build time-lapse so as not to spoil the surprise or anything, but don't worry, rest assured I did come up with a way of making sure that this thing can safely return our crew back to Kerbin. But now is not the time for that. We still have to do our mission. We have reached circular Kerbin orbit, so now we're going to go to Minmus. Everyone's favorite minty destination, right? I've done a lot of Mun missions recently, and I haven't been to Minmus very often in Kerbal Space Program 2, and I wanted to use our surface shuttle, and, our surface shuttle, it doesn't have much delta V or thrust to weight ratio, so it can't really land on many places, but it definitely can land on Minmus. And in fact, despite its size, our Starship doesn't have that much delta V either, so we can't really go all that far with it. I think it probably goes without saying that I built this thing primarily for its looks, to recreate a very iconic spacecraft, and I kind of put its actual functions secondary to its form. But despite that, it works pretty well. I was really, really happy with the fact that we could actually mount the engines on the nacelles themselves, and not to put, an engine sort of on the neck that connects the saucer to the bottom bit. Again, I probably should have looked up what the actual parts of the ship are called. I know the top bit's called the saucer, We've got the bridge as well. I didn't mention that. That's the Bulldog. Is it called the Bulldog? I don't even know the names of the Kerbal Space Program parts, let alone the components of Star Trek ships. But yeah, the bridge, I think it's called the Bulldog. Command pod, the rover module. Overall, I think this came out really well. And I was really happy with how, again, the engines could be mounted on the nacelles themselves. That's a fun sentence to say, isn't it? Although it did mean that the nacelles have to be a bit lower than they are on the original Star Trek from the original TV show. They're mounted much higher up on the real ship, but that wouldn't have worked in my Kerbal version. Although, maybe there's a challenge in there, if you added some counterweight, some ballasts, maybe you could have the engines mounted in the same place as the TV show, but I think it would be very difficult, to be honest. But hey, the Star Trek Enterprise is just one of many very iconic starships in fiction. Do you have any suggestions for a ship you might like to see me recreate in Kerbal Space Program next? Thinking maybe a Star Wars ship would be appropriate, although S.W. Dennis sort of has that whole part of the market cornered. I don't think I could match his skills, but, not actually tried, so who knows. Don't know what ship from Star Wars I would even try. Maybe the Millennium Falcon seems like an obvious choice. Don't know how easy it would be to recreate in Kerbal Space Program 2, but I'm willing to give it a go. But is there anything else that might be less obvious? Maybe something more niche, like Red Dwarf. Although Red Dwarf is just a big cylinder, isn't it? Although the Star Bug is could be a pretty cool thing to do. The Futurama ships, maybe. There's lots of potential things to recreate in Kerbal Space Program 2. And it's funny, thinking about it, I don't think I've ever actually done a video like this, ever. I've been making Kerbal videos since 2015. I don't think I've ever actually recreated a fictional ship in the game. Cue now hundreds of MacLeod historians saying, oh yes, actually you did on this date, here's the video. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. In fact, yeah, I tell a lie. I have recreated a fictional starship. And not just that, I've recreated a fictional ship from Star Trek. But I didn't really make it obvious. I didn't tell anyone. Only the true nerds got it. Way back in day, I made a couple of KSP films, Green Harvest and Duna Attacks, and a recurring ship in those films was the Forge Space Station, which is based on the Forge Space Station in Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, a video game which I loved as a child. There's two Elite Force games. There's Elite Force 1 and Elite Force 2. Star Trek Elite Force 3 is my Half-Life 3, guys. I really want them to make a sequel to these games. I love them so much. You can get them on GOG as well. They're dead cheap. Okay, they're like early 2000s PC video games, so like the graphics, they haven't held up that well, to be honest. Everyone looks like they're made of origami. But the gameplay is a banger, let me tell you. The gameplay absolutely slaps. Cannot recommend Star Trek Voyager Elite Force enough. I've only just started playing the second game, actually, so I can't really give a recommendation on that, but people say it's pretty good. But the first game is just beautiful, amazing game. I've been it more times than I can even count. So when it came to constructing the big evil battle station in Duna Attacks, it was just an obvious choice to copy the design of the Forge battle station in Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, and a couple of people, not many, but a couple of people in the comments saw the similarity and recognized it. And I didn't try and make it a huge secret, it's literally called the Forge Station in Duna Attacks as well. It was more of just a reference to see if anyone else had played one of my favorite games of all time. But I've been playing quite a lot of video games recently, actually. I kind of go through phases where I really don't play any video games outside of Kerbal Space Program, but I've been on a bit of a roll recently. I've just completed Spider-Man 2. I got a PS5 not too long ago, so I 100% completed Spider-Man 2. Great game, loved every second of that. Well, most seconds of it. It's still got kind of the rubbish Mary Jane missions from the first game. I don't know why they keep bringing her back as a playable character. But other than that, it was a really fun game. Me and my girlfriend Beth beat a short hike together. That was a really cute, cozy, relaxing game. Short, but sweet. And I recently also unlocked all the ducks in Placid Plastic Duck Simulator. That was a big achievement, let me tell you. And I guess I've been playing Kerbal Space Program 2 because it's a game now. Obviously it was a game before, but it was a bit... There were no real set objectives, but now it's got missions and stuff. I'm having a lot of fun playing the game. Okay, game, I'll go and do that mission and then come back and do some science. It's given me huge motivation to play the game. I mean, I had motivation to play the game anyway because, I get paid to play it by YouTube, by the way. I'm dispelling this myth again that I'm like paid by Intercept Games to play KSP2. I think this is such a myth now the game is actually considered somewhat decent, but back when it was really rough, there was a big thing going around saying us YouTubers getting paid and we're under contract by Intercept Games and Squad, even though Squad have nothing to do with KSP2, to play the game. It's not true. I mean, I wish it were true. I mean, if anyone from Intercept Games or Take-Two Interactive is listening, I'm very, very happy to accept payment for making these videos, but it's not going to happen, right? It's a mutually beneficial thing, right? Me making videos advertises the game for them, and also I can earn money on YouTube monetization. So, you know, it's that's how it works. I don't know of any YouTubers that actually get paid to play specific games. At least for channels of my sort of size. So I imagine that a channel with like 10 million plus subscribers gets requests all the time to play specific games from various developers. I would say a channel of my size, and is it arrogant to say that I'm a big channel when it comes to Kerbal Space Program? And so if I'm not getting asked to play games for money, none of the other Kerbal Space Program YouTubers are either. I do sometimes get asked to make dedicated videos of like mobile games, but they're usually quite sort of shady mobile games that are just basically gambling simulators. So I never actually say yes. The only times I've ever been paid to play a game for a video, and this is a bit of a tenuous stretch, is when I receive games for free from time to time. Like Frontier gave me all the Planet Coaster DLCs for free because I was making videos of the game a lot at the time. And games like Factorio and Astroneer, I was given free copies of those by the developers. And I, subsequently made, videos of them. But that's pretty much as close as it ever got to me getting paid to play a game. But look at that. I've not talked about anything on screen, really, and it's been quite a significant set of events taking place. We've done our surface landing. Luckily, none of our Kerbals were wearing red shirts, so there were no deaths here. So, we've planted our flag on the surface of Minmus, gathered surface samples because we are playing in exploration mode. Now we can return to the Starship. Minmus, I think it's growing on me. Originally when I first saw Minmus in Kerbal Space Program 2, I wasn't really a huge fan. I much preferred the Minmus appearance in Kerbal Space Program 1, where it was a bit more... the colour was a bit more saturated. It was a bit more of a turquoisey colour, where it's a bit more washed out in KSP2. I don't know if they've changed the graphics a bit, or if I've just got used to it or something like that, but it's starting to grow on me, I think. I like the appearance of Minmus now. I still don't know if I like it as much as I liked it in KSP1. I think there's just something about the quirkiness of how it looked in KSP1 where it was so minty. But, it is growing on me. As you can see, I did a terrible job matching our orbit to the Starship's orbit. It was at completely the wrong inclination. So I did a small normal burn. And then I made a maneuver node trying to encounter the ship on the daylight side of Minmus so that we can actually see what we're doing when it comes to docking, because all of the crew are currently on board the shuttle. Not a great tactical decision in hindsight. If the Klingons had decided to attack the ship, it would have been a sitting duck. But regardless, it's fine. Which means that the ship is not... There's no probe core, I don't think, on the ship. So we can't do the Lowne lazy method of docking. We have to do all of the docking correctly by just using the shuttle to do all the docking. One thing I do dislike about Minmus in Kerbal Space Program 2 is how it locks your time warp to only the first 3 notches until you're very high off the surface. Our ascent took ages. Luckily with the power of video editing I could speed the footage up, but it's very tedious just sitting at max time warp whilst you watch your ship slowly get further and further away from the surface until the game allows you to use the faster time warps. I think at this point there is actually a mod that allows you to just bypass that, but I don't know, I can't be bothered to do that. I need to get around to it. There's so much to do. And also, I don't really want to install mods at the moment because of the fact that, hopefully there's going to be, frequent updates that are going to keep breaking mods. But also, mainly, I'm in the middle of doing a tutorial for beginners series, and I don't really want to have mods that might confuse new players. So, yeah. Anyway, we're now on the red navboard. I love the new docking mode navboard. Looks really snazzy. As we approach the Starship to perform our docking. So there it is, looming ahead in the distance. I know I kind of criticized Star Trek Discovery earlier, but I think the silhouette of this ship actually looks a lot closer to the Discovery than it does to the original Enterprise. So, oops, I guess. And, yeah, it's not... the red tips of the nacelles are just way too big and goofy. But again, I did say that this is not actually a recreation of any specific Star Trek ship. I was just trying to sort of match the aesthetic, like, you know, the big saucer, again, the bottom bit, the neck, and the two nacelles mounted on the wings there. And of course the rear shuttle bay. I guess, though, the main muse was the original series Starship, because we've got that sort of satellite dish on the front, which I don't think is present in many other iterations, picking my words carefully, in many other iterations of the ship. Like, I know it's not like, how do I describe, like an artistic thing, like all the ships exist canonically in the same universe, they're just different ships that are named Enterprise. I'm just saying, though, like, that's the canon, but everyone knows that it's just different, like, showrunners deciding to design their own version of the ship. I don't know. And so this is my version. And I told a lie. I said there was no probe core on the ship, so we couldn't do Lowne lazy method of docking. There was a probe core, because that's how I was able to open up the cargo bay door. But I guess, you know, realism's sake, I decided to just dock the shuttle using only the shuttle, if that makes sense. But now we are back on the Starship, so it's time to head on home. Remember what I said earlier? You know, how are we going to return the Kerbals safely to the surface? Well, hope you enjoy the next however many minutes it's going to take for us to get down to the surface. We're going to do some atmospheric flying with this ridiculous starship. It's going to be a lot of fun. First things first, though, we need to actually set up our burn so that we can reach Kerbin, which we've now set up, so we can point the right direction, and then we can time warp and execute. And I do really like how this ship came out. I did consider, I said this right at the beginning of the video, I know, but I did consider making like a gigantic ship, but I really like kind of the smaller scale stuff a lot better. I don't know why. Is there a ship in Star Trek that's like this, you know, the Star Trek ship shape, you know, the saucer, neck, bottom bit, etc. We've already done this. That's this kind of size, so I guess comfortably it could probably support a crew of just staring at the screen trying to gauge it. Maybe like 30? No, maybe that's a bit high. Maybe like 15, 20 people. Like a small scale one. I don't actually know. I'm not like a huge Trekkie nerd, to be honest. I don't know what the actual capacity of the starships are. I know the Next Generation ship was massive compared to the original series ship. And like the Discovery was kind of a normal-ish size, and the Starship, the Voyager, was smaller. So yeah, I don't actually know. So maybe there are some Trekkies in the comments below. Statistically, there's going to be a whole bunch of you who love Star Trek because you know, you like Kerbal Space Program. Now look at this. We've re-entered. The satellite dish exploded, which then prompted the game to tell me that the entire ship was doomed, but in fact, I could just quickly double-click it whilst it zoomed away from the camera, and we could retake control, because the only thing that was destroyed was the satellite dish. And I was actually really impressed by the durability of this vehicle, actually. I assumed there was going to be lots of bits exploding upon re-entry, but actually, it's doing pretty well, especially the wings. I think a criticism of heating, well, it's criticism, but a criticism that people have had of the re-entry heating is that SSTOs are really hard to design, so are space shuttles, because the wings will overheat and explode, but the hardiness of the wings scales with their size and thickness, so you have really big, thick wings. They'll be much more resistant to heat than like small, thin ones, and these wings are pretty chonky, so that's probably why they were able to survive re-entry. But despite their chonkiness, they don't do a very good job at keeping this thing level, I guess, because the wings are at completely the wrong angle. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but this Starship is not very aerodynamic. It's not going to fly very well. But regardless, we can zoom down to the surface anyway, firing the engines to pitch up a little bit, but it's not going terribly well. But wait for it. Da, 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 da. That's right! We had an escape pod inside for all of the crew. Oh, just be quiet whilst the ship explodes. Beautiful. And yeah, that's how we got the crew safely down. Like, I know it only says Tim C. Kerman right at the top, but we can actually scroll down to another level. And I assure you that Jebediah Kerman, I think Valentina was the other Kerbal I had, they are both on board as well. And with that, we have successfully survived our journey. I hope you enjoyed the journey. I certainly did. Gonna end the video with this little shot of them all posing on the surface of Minmus with the flag. And of course, the names of my patrons are currently scrolling on the left of the screen. It's thanks to them makes all of this content possible. And our amazing sponsor, Babbel, who again sponsored this video. Check the link in the description and pinned comment, all that good stuff. And yeah, there are 2 other videos from my channel on screen that YouTube thinks you'll like. So hopefully those are good suggestions for you. Go ahead and click them if you want. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.